Hey guys, and welcome to Quality Shot. I'm super excited to be joined, as you can tell, by Stephen from the Slice. How you doing, Stephen?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me on, Faison. It's good to chat and decompress from Wimbledon.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, as Stephen just said, we're just going to talk about Wimbledon, a quick review of it. Obviously, all the Djokovic fans, I'm so sure, will be really, really happy winning his 20th Slam, sixth Wimbledon and third consecutive Wimbledon as well. And while the hunt for the Golden Slam continues, or career Slam, we don't know if he's going to do the Olympics now after a bit of umming and ahhing after being asked that question after.
Yeah.
Before we get into nitty gritty, though, what do you think of the final? Because a lot of people were saying, I know you said Djokovic in four. I was of the similar thinking as well. A lot of people, they were saying, look, Djokovic is going to run through him, and Berrettini. Some people were even thinking Berrettini might win. But as a spectacle, like if we take it as standalone, like what did you think of it?
Yeah, it was, good match. Like definitely not one of the iconic major finals that we all kind of hope for and think about. Like it was never going to be really unless it somehow went, 5 sets and got super dramatic. But Berrettini played pretty well. He could have played better. A lot of that has to do with Djokovic, obviously. But it was a good mix of styles, and I can't believe he got the first set like that from that position down. Djokovic serving for it, getting tight. That was crazy to me. But that we can come back to this point. Like that sums up the last three majors, and in my mind, for me, like the style of how that match went. Same with the Shapovalov match. Yeah, it's very interesting. So yeah, final was good. Wasn't like one to remember for a long time, kind of, but obviously a huge deal for Djokovic. When he's 20th Slam, he was pretty nervous, as you could tell, which is funny. But yeah, it was a good final.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because I think I was saying on the live stream that I did for the final that I thought Djokovic, he did look a bit tighter. Obviously, he's still this mental giant, but he's always been in a position where if he wins a Grand Slam, he's still chasing. But it
Yeah,
was actually no to equal it. And then obviously now going forward, he's tied. So it's okay, you can make your own history now. You're not actually chasing history.
yeah,
And it's now, okay, if you get in front, that's it. You've got your nose in front and it's a different type of pressure. So it'll be interesting to see how he handles it, I guess. But look, I mean, he won. I think I don't know what your opinion is on it, but I reckon he played. I think I heard you say the same thing as B level, really, throughout not just the final, but for most of the tournament. I thought.
yeah,
I don't think I remember seeing him cracking, a lot of backhand down the lines, which is one of his trademark shots. A lot of return winners. Like we just saw some solid tennis, but nothing that made me think, wow, like, Roland Garros, we saw that. We saw bits of that in the Australian Open as well. Most number of aces, which is crazy. You never, ever think of that for Novak. But
yeah,
at this Wimbledon, it was a bit different, but he did enough, basically, to get through and to win a Grand Slam, which sounds crazy. And that's not taking anything away from him. But obviously, that's just unfortunately maybe where some of the rest of the guys are. Do you think maybe, as well, I wanted to ask you, given that it's grass and a lot of people hadn't played on it for a couple of years, and there's a bit of an experience there, do you think that also helped his cause a little bit? Not to make excuses for them, but just to say, like, that's the reality of it, right? Most of the tournaments nowadays are on hard court. People
yeah.
grow up playing on the hard courts, have more experience on it. And obviously, Wimbledon wasn't played last year. So do you think that was a factor as well?
Yeah, 100%. It was definitely a factor. A lot of the young guys who, say for example at the US Open coming up, who I think that'll be his hardest challenge out of the four to win. I mean, the Australian Open was tough for him to win, and obviously the French Open was too, but because there a lot of young guys are good on clay. But yeah, we haven't seen them, like if you go back to 2019 Wimbledon, like Daniil Medvedev was not really a top threat. Stefanos Tsitsipas was not a top threat. Zverev was like a kind of a well-known name, but not really. It was in this. So all the best players from today were not really that good back then, and they hadn't played on grass since. So it made sense coming into the tournament. Novak Djokovic was like the clear favorite, just because the field was so inexperienced and just like not good on grass. To no other way to put it. Like if you go back like 5 years, you would have had like a really good Andy Murray, like a good like Federer, like Nadal still competent on grass. You would have had like all these even guys like Burditch or like Del Potro who were playing, or even Dimitrov when he could still play. there's so many guys who could, challenge Djokovic, but those guys, it just didn't exist this year. And so in that sense, it was a weaker grass field, but I'm not ever going to say like it was a weak, like anyone who says like a weak era, whatever, it's hard to win a Grand Slam no matter what. But some are easier than others, I think. And I think that was the case for this year as far as the field versus Djokovic. Djokovic has a ton of experience on grass. He's amazing on it. And the field doesn't. So yeah, you had a massive advantage there.
Yeah, agreed. I think, as you said, like I know you talk about it a little bit on your videos, but the weak era thing is just, I think, a bit ridiculous. You can only play in the era that you've given, and I think we can probably safely say that we've seen 4 of the greatest players, or at least 3 of the greatest players of all time in this generation era. But to call it a weak era at times is just like, it's just silly. I think, and it's disrespectful, really, to the other players, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and it's disrespectful, but it's just clueless as well. It's like, it's so funny to me because, and I'll probably get flack for this, but who are all the people saying weak era theory for Federer from 2003 to 2007? It's not Federer fans. Right?
Yeah,
it's Djokovic
fans. Yeah.
It's Nadal fans at one point. And now where are those people when we had a tournament like this where Djokovic played a first-time quarterfinalist? Actually, in the 4th round, he played a guy who had never won a match at Wimbledon before in the 4th round. First-time quarterfinalist, first-time semifinalist, first-time finalist at a major. If that draw was put back in 2004, they'd be calling it a weak era draw. Except actually, if you look back at those draws, they were actually a lot tougher with ranking wise than most of these. So those people they're talking all the trash then when their guy had less slams and less stats, and this was the only way to like rationalize how Federer had 20 slams. But now that Djokovic is there and he's done it and he's accomplished the same things, it's like now they're just quiet. So I was like pointing out the hypocrisy in my videos. I've always said Federer never played in a weak era, so I'm not saying Djokovic is playing in one now because it's idiotic both ways. You got to stay consistent.
Yeah.
But yeah, you look back at that era with Federer in the early 2000s. He's playing like all these guys who had been previous world number ones and had won slams before.
Roddick and Hewitt and all those guys.
Because nobody has won a slam that's playing today other than Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, Marin Cilic, and Andy Murray.
Yeah, and Wawrinka, I guess, isn't it? Yeah.
Well. He's like in a wheelchair half the time.
Yeah. And team just off the boil. So yeah, I agree.
Team.
But I agree with you, right? As in those guys have just been so dominant that you can say that when they were at their peak, is like you can have all types of things. I think we just need to take out is enjoy the tennis from the 3 that we've seen, and also Murray and Wawrinka, those guys as well have played their part for sure. Especially Murray, who was really consistent, and just enjoy it. Enjoy it. Like I think we get too caught up, and obviously people have their favorites. That's fine, but like, come on, guys. Are Djokovic and Federer going to really see your comments and give you a like and contact you and DM you? No, they're not. So I think they're just enjoying it as well, and you can see from the tweets to each other. Very briefly then, before we move on from Djokovic, I'm assuming, as you said, it's probably going to be his hardest feat winning the US Open, as in this year anyway, because 1, the pressure's on, he's expected to win it. 2, now this is a chance to go in front for the first time ever. And 3, like it's just going to be a case of workload and fatigue. Like he will be not just physically tired, but mentally tired, I think, to a degree. But he's a favorite, right? Surely he's a favorite for that US Open, and also to finish up outright on the most slams in terms of totals.
Yeah. I think the US Open, so at the French Open he was not the favorite. And he got a little bit fortunate there, I think, being like down 2 sets to love in the final there. Tsitsipas, I don't know how he didn't close that. But the US Open going into there, like with Wimbledon, he was clearly the favorite.
Yeah.
Because of the reasons we just talked about. But at the US Open, the rest of the field is very good on hard court, especially the US Open. That's actually been the big three's least successful slam, I think, as a group. I mean, Federer's won it 6 times, I think, 5 times. I think he won it 5 times in a row in his weak era. No, I'm just kidding. I think Djokovic has 4 maybe, or 3, and Nadal has 4.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot more open. The young guys know how to play on the hard courts, right? Like the young guys, Zverev, team, Tsitsipas, Medvedev have shown over the last 2 years that I think they've bested the big three in 3-set matches on hard court. Like I think they have a winning head-to-head record as a group compared to them. I would have to look that up. I know Team does. I know Medvedev does. So they should be full of confidence when they step out on court there. I know Djokovic is like the bionic man and he's got his diet and he's, primed up, but if it goes 5 sets in a hard court match, you like Team or especially Tsitsipas or Medvedev have to take some confidence that they're younger. They're going to be able to have more gas in the tank there, and they can play on that surface and they can beat them because they've all done that. So that's why, like when it's like, oh, if Tsitsipas was going to play Djokovic at Wimbledon, there's no reason for him to have confidence there really, because he's never beaten him on grass and he has no experience winning on grass. But on hard court, all these kids can play. So I think the field is a lot stronger at the US Open, a lot stronger. So that's why Djokovic he'll still be the favorite. I think his betting odds are like 1.8 at the US Open right now to win it. And I think they were like 1.4 coming into Wimbledon. So it's like he's a lot less of a favorite, but he's still the favorite. But when you think, do you take Djokovic or the field? At Wimbledon, I would have taken Djokovic. At US Open, I don't think I would take Djokovic, even though I do have him as a favorite. I don't expect him to win. Like it's going to be tough for him.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you take a single player, then he's a favorite. But I think, if you compare him to the field, I think thing is as well, realistically, the rest of the field, including Nadal and Federer, will be trying to stop him from winning it. Especially, I don't know, we'll talk about Federer. I know you'll be quite sad by some of the stuff we talk about in a bit with him, but we'll see what he can do there. But Nadal, especially taking a break, I know he'll be raring to go, but he'll probably be hoping not to face Djokovic through his.
Yeah, they might be on the same side because Medvedev's still going to be number 2.
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, I agree with you. Like all the other younger guys are very, very strong on the hard court. But anyways, we're talking about Wimbledon. As you can see in the background, that's actually a picture of me at Wimbledon on court 1.
Nice.
That's a Kyrgios Umber match. Actually, you can't see Kyrgios; he's behind Steven. But yeah, but yeah, that was really enjoyed it. But anyways, let's talk about Berrettini then, because the reason I want to touch upon him, obviously his first ever Grand Slam final. I thought he did a pretty decent job, considering that. Look, he could have got flattered in straight sets, and no one would have batted an eyelid. They would have said, "Well, it's just part and parcel of facing one of the big three in your first ever Grand Slam final." But the fact that he nicked a set, as he said, and he was a breakdown in that first set, he came back, broke back, then managed to win the tie break. He had chances. I don't think actually he had as many chances as Shapovalov, who again we'll talk about in a little bit, in the match in terms of break point opportunities, but he had inroads and didn't really manage the big points as well as he would have liked.
Yeah.
But I think that's a bit of experience more than anything. What were your overall thoughts of Berrettini in the final and also just overall in the grass court? I mean, the only stat that I can say maybe to balance it out is that I think going into that, his average rank of opponent was 64 on the grass going into the final.
Okay.
So he had an 11-0 record going into the final, but obviously the level of opposition wasn't amazing.
Right.
What were your overall thoughts on Berrettini?
Yeah, I had way before the tournament, I put $20 on him to win the whole thing at 21-1 odds. So if he had won that final, I would have won like 400. But
someone. So when I was watching Berrettini or Galiaciab in the quarterfinal, the guy next to me had actually put a similar bet to you on Berrettini after watching him at Queen. So it's funny. So it seems like a couple of people had that same idea.
Yeah. Well, if I had to expect, I thought he was the favorite to come out of the bottom half of the draw, even with Federer in it. He's just like, the only way that, you can stop, like Djokovic is the only guy who can handle his serve the way he did. And Berrettini he's developed a lot where he's so good, obviously, like serve and first hit. If he gets a serve and then his next shot is a forehand, he's winning like I can't remember the stats, but I think it's like 75 to 80% of those points, even against Djokovic. So it doesn't matter really who he's playing. The only difference is Djokovic was able to get on the second serve almost every single return to Berrettini's backhand, and then he would literally just keep hitting it there. It's the percentage tennis that people have come to expect with Djokovic, and the reason why some people don't enjoy watching him play. But obviously it's fascinating to see that strategy, because it's necessary. Like, no matter who you are, you're gonna falter if it comes to just playing off Berrettini's forehand on grass when he's on his front foot, right? It's just so big. So he's like developed his game super well. Obviously, Djokovic experienced or exposed the one weak area in his game, kind of, which is his backhand. It's still not like a huge weakness, but it enabled him to not be able to win that match, right? Because like Djokovic was able to just do that so much. And Berrettini, you know, obviously the next step for him would have to be like, okay, if Djokovic is going to float returns to my backhand and like put shots there, that a lot of them were just medium pace balls to his backhand, Berrettini would slice it cross court, backhand it cross court. You got to be able to be like, make Djokovic think that you have that up the line winner backhand capability, or at least do something with it. And he did do a nice job at a lot of those rallies, like slicing it super low. Like he almost has like a better slice than Djokovic. Like he's like really cutting one, which kept the ball low, and then he would try and come in after it sometimes. But just a bit of that over the top backhand. Needs to have his weight going a bit more forward and have more danger on that shot. So he can even put it into like kind of like the 3/4 backhand side of the court. So Djokovic has to go cross court then and get back onto the forehand pattern. So he's just got a bit of work to do there, but I'm happy he got one set. I thought, he could have won the match, I thought, and I don't know if I really loved how Shapovalov left the court in tears, and before the match talked his talk, being like, I can win this match. I know I can. I have the game. And he was like angry at the end that he didn't win the match, because he thought, and Djokovic said he was the better player for most of the match. So I hate it when I see the attitude from young guys just being like, no matter who it's against, like, oh, I tried my best. I had a pretty good effort. I was playing Nadal or Djokovic or Federer. Like, what could I expect? It's like, well, you should be expecting to win these matches. You're like a top 10 professional, and you're not going to win if you don't. Like, you're not going to win if you don't have that confidence. So I think Berrettini had that for the most part. He talked about after he didn't play his best. Good effort from him, and he's got obviously some areas to improve a little bit, but he's scary, man. On grass, it was not the grass is not as fast as it used to be. I can only imagine him playing back in like the 2010s, right? Like with a lot of those serves would not be coming back, and yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I agree. I think him on grass, even though it is slightly slower, he's just going to be a menace for the years to come. And I'm sure it'll be interesting to see how he does on the hard court. He did pretty well at the French, obviously taking a set off Djokovic as well at the French, and eventually falling to him. But yeah, I agree. I think it's interesting. You said about the mentality of the younger players. Like, if they go in with the attitude that, if I lose, it's okay, it's a learning experience, then they'll always lose, as you said, because they just mentally have already tripped up before they've even got on the court. I'll move on to your favorite topic, Federer, and then we'll talk about the Canadians, because then I'm sure that will cheer you up after, give you a little pick-me-up after talking about Federer. But Federer, I mean, is it the start of the end? And it sounds really, really dire, but when I say start of the end, I think we know he's not going to retire. We know he's going to carry on, but is this the start where we really see the age show and a little bit of actual, I guess, deterioration in his game? What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, it sure looked like it after the Hurkacz match. Just he just played not his best. He was kind of playing off the back foot, shanking a lot, because Hurkacz was playing really, really well, and he was cracking the ball big. So yeah, I think there was he played some good. He beat a really good Cam Norrie, in form. Cam Norrie beat Sonego, who's pretty solid. Yeah, and at the French Open, he beat Cilic, which was like a very good match, I thought. And so he's got some positive things, and that's still these are like his first two real tournaments back. So I think that he can up his game. He's got to put in the work over this next month preparing for the U.S. Open to get match fit. On the grass, I honestly don't think he was moving as well as he was on like the hard court, because of this. It seemed like there was like an increased slipping potential this year at Wimbledon, and for a guy who's had 3 knee surgeries in the last few years, it's like, imagine running around thinking, oh, I could slip and something could pop, it could tear, and then I'm not coming back. So I think he was moving a bit gingerly the whole time and a little bit cautiously, and that if you're 1% cautious and not just focused and committed to your shots, that's a massive difference, right? So yeah, it's the start of the end, but as a Federer fan, like we thought he was going to be retiring after 2012, like literally almost 10 years ago. So, and then when he came back in 2017, it's all just borrowed time. And like for me, like that cemented his like legacy, like the 2017-18 run he had, even the 2019 run, having match points at Wimbledon. Such a shame he couldn't close those out for Fed fans, but yeah, it's like there's nothing more that I need to squeeze out. He needs to squeeze out of his career, right? He's done everything there is to do in tennis, and yeah, it's like it's sad to see him go, but because he's like, yeah, I don't like watching anyone play tennis as even remotely close as how much I like him watching him play. I think that's the case for a lot of people. And yeah, it'll be sad when he's gone. It'll be sad when Djokovic is gone. It'll be sad when Nadal's gone. But I'm also excited. I thought it was going to happen already. I thought the next gen should be winning slams by now consistently. But
yeah, same. Yeah,
it's been disappointing for there. But I'm excited to see this next generation take over with guys like Felix, Chapo, the Canadians, like all the young guys. I want to see like a group of 10 guys splitting the majors going forward. Like that'd be cool to see.
I agree. I thought I was going to see it with Tsitsipas going up 2-0 in the French Open final. I thought this is it. I was like, this is it. This is the passing. This is going to be where they're going to start to make the inroads, and obviously didn't manage to close it. But yeah, I can see the pain kind of oozing from you as you talk about Federer going. But I'm sure it'll be interesting to see how you handle it after. I'm sure you'll do a tribute video or something on the slice for him. He'll get a good. Yeah, you'll get a good send off. Yeah, maybe you retire.
When he retires, I retire.
Yeah, to honor him. Exactly. Yeah. Oh man. You talked about Shapovalov, and also I saw Felix live. An amazing athlete. Yeah. So I saw the quarterfinals. So Berrettini, Hurkacz and Khachanov and Shapovalov. So I saw both your Canadian counterparts. And look, I mean, big game. Shapovalov, Hurkacz, fantastic returner, big serve as well, and both looked very, very talented. Obviously, only one of them came out of that with the win. But I wanted to get your opinion on it, being the Canadian expert, I'm sure. Shapovalov and Felix, what do you think? First of all, what do you think of their tournament for each? And also going forward as well, how do you think how do you think it now is going to affect their career and kind of progression now going forward?
They both had what I think are the kind of like defining wins at Wimbledon this year. Felix beat Zverev coming down. It was coming down from 2-1, or no, he was up 2-0, and then Zverev came back, tied it up, and instead of cracking, he like found his game again and won that match. Top 5 player. Huge win for him to go to the quarterfinals. That was a match where, Felix has had a lot of yips early in his career in the big pressure moments, which is kind of funny because you wouldn't think that his type of game would have that or be as susceptible to it as it is or it has been, because he doesn't have his same type of big cuts that Shapovalov has. Just with a one-handed backhand, it's just literally harder to play tennis that way, and it's harder to play in the big moments because you can't slow it down as much. But he held his nerve, found it, and like won that match, which is a big deal for him. And then he, against Berrettini, he just didn't play his best. But quarterfinals is a big step for him. He's still, I think he's 20s, right? Like he's 20 years old. Huge for him. Shapovalov, another defining win against Khachanov, because Khachanov was playing really well in that match. And he was playing the type of tennis that I thought would put Shapovalov off his game. Shapovalov destroyed Andy Murray and RBA because he hits a lot bigger than they do at this point. Khachanov was serving massive, hitting his forehand massive, and Shapovalov was able to mix it, defend when he had to, figure it out. He went down 2-1 and came back to win the next 2 sets, which is huge for him. He also returned super well. I think Khachanov only had like 4 aces that entire match, that's crazy. So Shapovalov played that amazing. And then he went, like I said, we talked about, he went into the Djokovic match with belief. Like he had an unbelievably bad error at 30-all when he was serving for the first set. Just like he could have headbutted the ball in and won the point, right? Like it was just shocking miss to basically like that puts him up set point on his serve. So it's like, so that was tight for him, but you can't really blame the kid. He's 22, playing arguably the best of all time, and he was right there, and he talked about it afterwards, where he's like, I feel so upset because I felt like I could see the trophy in my hands, like I felt like I could win. There was no real, he didn't have the belief like, oh, I have no chance against Djokovic. He was like, I could beat Djokovic, and then I could beat Berrettini and win Wimbledon. He won Wimbledon juniors. He's won a lot of titles in his career, not a lot on the ATP. Obviously, I think he's only won one or maybe two, but these kids have all won a lot of tournaments just through their juniors, so they know how to like win a tournament. So he was like expecting and hoping to win Wimbledon, which I think is just, I think a lot of players have been in the semifinals of Grand Slams and still giving themselves no chance to win the tournament, which is like kind of crazy. So I love seeing him there. So I think that attitude will do very well for him going forward. And honestly, he's in the top 10 favorites at the US Open now to win. I think like he's reined in. If he can have more winners than errors in every match he plays, and he can like stay calm and defend well and return well, he's super dangerous against anyone in the world, including Djokovic, Federer, Nadal.
Yeah, I agree. Watching him live was a pleasure, really. And as you said, Khachanov played really well on that day. So went to 5, and it was a great match to watch. I mean, I've recorded some clips and stuff, so for people who are listening, I haven't got around to it yet, but I watched day 2 as well. So I saw Zverev and Medvedev and Kerber for their round 1 matches. So I'll post the pictures and videos and a clip for separate days, just for people who are listening and thinking, oh, why have you not put the content? I will. It'll be a little vlog video for people to watch. On to this side of the pond then, the Brit Watch. So I know you're a big fan of Jack Draper, as you like to call him, and Cam Norrie and Dan Evans, who I know is a friend of your show as well and has been on. So what do you think? I mean, obviously Cam Norrie had a pretty good run until he ran into Roger Federer, and I think maybe the occasion got the better of him a little bit in the first set, and then he showed a bit more of himself and what he's about. Jack Draper's obviously very young, also a lefty as well, and Dan Evans, I think, was slightly upset to lose to Sebastian Korda because I think he knew that was a bit of a chance, and he had some openings and probably didn't play his best tennis.
Yeah.
What do you think about UK tennis? I mean, I'm not including Andy Murray in there because I'm more looking progressively forward, and that's not to say that Andy Murray can't compete, but I'm trying to look more at people who, are younger and they're coming through. Dan Evans is obviously quite experienced, but he's near the top of his game. What were your thoughts on it, and what's the thoughts of the guys over the pond in Canada as well? Like, do you look at the Brits and think, oh, easy, we can knock them over, or is it actually they're a bit of a threat now?
Yeah, it just seems like they're in a better place as a group than they were a few years ago, even though they had, obviously Andy Murray was like number 1 in the world, but it was kind of like a big gap between him and anyone else. Cam Norrie's had a great last 2 months, right? Clay and grass, just amazing. I still don't really see any of those guys in the same category as like a Chapo or a Felix as far as like the potential, right? Because just the potential for those Canadian guys is number 1, multiple Grand Slam winners. That's like their potential. I don't like, it's hard to see with Jack Draper. Like he's a huge stud. Like he's just like the man, like super good looking, like tall, like got a good game, like looks the part. But I think there's some weaknesses in his game where against Djokovic, and I'm surprised he took the set off Djokovic. I mean, he's got a big serve, big forehand. It was really like it's almost like a different grass then towards the end of the tournament, so it almost seemed different. Like it seemed like they had to walk gingerly on it, and like you couldn't really defend well because you couldn't run and slide, or like you couldn't run and stop. So, but yeah, he's like obviously he's gonna fix those areas in his game. So if he like just a bit of like the movement and like the backhand defending looked a bit suspect at times, but he's still got so much. I think he's got potential to be like top 10. Do what I never want to put a cap on anyone's potential because there's just you never really know. Cam Norrie, like he's like, I heard someone say it who's a Brit, he's like he's getting the absolute most out of his body and his career. Like I wouldn't put him in like the freak athlete class like a Felix Auger-Aliassime or even like a Shapovalov really, but he's absolutely maximizing his potential, I think, and he can get higher for sure. Against Federer, I think Cam Norrie likes to be a bit of a consistent guy, mixing up spins. using angles, and Federer is obviously like the master at that. So it was a pretty clear game plan. Like Federer was going to pull, Cam Norrie out to his backhand wing, make him defend off that flat. If he's hitting it so flat, he kind of has to go cross court if he's coming over it, even if he's slicing it. And then Federer's just going up the line, and he just had a good rhythm, and he just was a bit too much for him then. And yeah, Cam Norrie is probably a bit starstruck and a bit nervous playing on center court against one of the GOATs, arguably the best to ever do it. So yeah, like I don't know, the Brits are in a good spot. Like I love Dan Evans. He's a tricky opponent for everyone. He's almost better on hard court now than he is on grass or clay. But yeah, they're in a good spot, I think. Comparing it to the Canadians or like the Italians, like those two countries just have more firepower in those young guns. For sure, I think those are the top two tennis nations. Russia is right up there, obviously, but yeah, it's the Canadians are in a good spot, man. We're lucky to have the two guys that we have, and yeah, they're going to be beasts for sure coming down in the next few years.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's Russia, Canada, and Italy. I think got the guys coming through, and Khachanov, obviously one of those Russians, had a pretty good tournament, and it's one of those guys who I think has been, touted as someone who can do some bits, but hasn't quite done it. And same with Hurkacz as well, right? I mean, in and around the top 20, and just hasn't quite made a breakthrough. He did against Federer, beating him straight sets and begging him in the third set. Sorry, I had to mention it, but I know you mentioned it. Purchased the bagel mugs from Stephen and the slice.com, I'm sure.
Right.
But
right.
yeah, for Khachanov and Hurkacz, I mean, it seemed like these were breakthrough tournaments for both. Can we see them be more consistent now in the Grand Slams and actually potentially be threats? Or do you think it was a case of, look, they had a good tournament, but we can't really expect this consistency from them going forward?
I think for Hurkacz, he can be big time. I think he showed that by winning Miami, showed that by beating Federer. He's just got the game. He's got the really nice kind of Djokovic-esque backhand defensive ability on the backhand, and he's got a big game. Like when he had the first set point, I think against Federer in the tie break in the second set, his serve that he had there was like 138 on the tee, I think, like on the line. It's just like unstoppable. Yeah. So it's just, to me, that shows guts. That shows big kahunas there. And I've always liked him. When he beat Dominic Thiem at the 2019 Miami Open, I was there and I watched it and I was like, this guy's good. And I like chatted with him after the match in person, which was cool. Khachanov, I don't know if I have the same belief in his game as I used to. I don't really know if I ever really did. His forehand is too pronated to really be that consistent, I think. And yeah, like he just doesn't have the full complete game as like the other big guys. So I don't know. I don't really see him ever doing anything more than like maybe getting to the top 10. I know he beat Djokovic in the final of Paris 2018, which is like so random. But yeah, I don't know. For some reason, I mean, if Karen's watching this, I'd love to be wrong. Like, prove me wrong. I don't want.
I'm sure he's not, but if he is,
yeah,
we love you, Karen.
Yeah, for sure. I love the guy. See, I think a nice guy, family man. I think he's married. Love that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have the same. I think Hurkacz has a bigger upside than he does.
Yeah. I mean, Hurkacz beat Medvedev, right, after being 2-1 down, then coming the next day winning, which is such a huge win. And Khachanov, I think it's fair to say he's got a solid game, like solid forehand, solid backhand. The serve is decently big as well, but I think obviously on the grass he gets more purchase for it. But he had a life or death match with Korda as well. He was a little bit hot as well, so kind of shows where he's at. But I think he played probably to the best of his ability against Shapovalov, and Shapovalov played pretty well there, but I wouldn't say he played his best tennis there. I think he played better against Djokovic. So I think he's solid without being spectacular, I think is how I see Khachanov. So I agree with you. And Hurkacz, though, has got different weapons. I feel like he can develop, and people have been touting for a long time. Just to finish up then, I've got some very quick questions about like best match of the tournament, upset, etc. So I wanted to get your thoughts on it. So first of all, What was your best match of the tournament, did you think?
Tough. There actually
I've got,
wasn't really many epic matches in this Wimbledon,
yeah,
was there?
I've got a few. I've got a few here. I don't know whether you want to pick from these. So I've got Khachanov,
Yeah.
obviously, really, well, big end in the end for I think it was 10-8 in the fifth. Kyrgios Umber, which I think was 9-7 in the fifth. Shapovalov Khachanov, which I was there for as well. So Khachanov in two of those. Those were pretty epic matches, and obviously the Medvedev Hurkacz one as well,
Yeah.
just because there's significance around that. I mean, some of the tennis obviously in those were good. Kyrgios Umber, I was there for the first day of that, so
Yeah.
I'm just probably a bit biased towards it. But yeah, what do you think? What did you had to pick from that list? It's just a couple of examples.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to think. Like, honestly, I don't remember a single match where I was like, there's a lot of other majors. You have like, French Open, you have like Djokovic and Nadal semifinals, like unbelievable, and even the final. But it was I think I'm gonna do a ranking of like best majors of the year at the end, and Wimbledon. I think it'll be at the bottom for sure. Like, it's just not that exciting of a tournament when it comes to like matches and stuff. But I think maybe Shapovalov, Khachanov might have for me would have been the best. Just they were both mashing the ball and like it was like a pretty high level throughout. Yeah, the final, Berrettini Djokovic, like there's just so much on the line, a lot of nerves. Like it's a final. It's just like, how do you not love watching the guys walk out to the doing the champions walk? So cool. So yeah, I would say either of those two matches.
All right, okay. Then I get that. That makes sense. And upset of the tournament.
Should have thought about these beforehand. I think, TFO.
Sorry, I put you on the spot.
No, it's good. It's good. TFO beating Tsitsipas, probably.
Yeah, that's a good one, actually. That's a really,
I mean, people think, and I thought even at the first, you'd expect Tsitsipas to do well, but if you think about it, his best surface is clay because he has a lot of time and he takes big cuts. So that just makes it the opposite for clay or for grass. But yeah, like him losing first round is pretty savage after making the Wimbledon or the French Open final. So yeah, that was probably the biggest upset to me.
No, that was a big one, to be fair. I think, well, I guess you could. What one that I had in my mind as well is Fucsovics versus Rublev. So Fucsovics finally breaking his duck right after losing 4 in a row to Rublev and then managing to win in 5, which was pretty impressive. But I agree, like Tsitsipas, obviously, a lot of people were high on him after the French Open, but as you said, like his game, I hadn't played on it for a couple of years. He's still very young, and I know his grandmother passed away as well, and I think he was very, very close with us. So I think he actually took a break after the French Open, hadn't played any tennis. So it's coming cold, and TFO as well is like he's a dangerous player. So, but I agree that was a big upset in terms of the season. Completely blew it wide open straight away, didn't it? Yeah. Surprise player of the tournament.
Surprise player, probably Hurkacz coming in, 6-game losing streak coming in, six match losing streak coming in, makes it to the semifinals. So yeah, that's pretty crazy. Berrettini I expected to be there. Djokovic obviously expected to be there, and then Hurkacz and Shapovalov. Like he was like he missed the French Open, I think. With injury.
I don't think he played it.
Did he play it or did he skip?
I think he skipped it. I don't think he played that.
Yeah, no, he didn't. So I'd say those two guys making the semifinals, very good for them. Very, very good. Yeah,
agreed. What about breakthrough player? So it can be more of a younger player looking at someone who's kind of broken onto the scene, and you think, okay, you've done pretty well in this tournament, and you've established yourself as potentially a threat.
Yeah, it's got to be Sebastian Korda. I think American. He's got a great game. Like we all know that. Like he's got a lot of the Americans who have come up young in the past, like Tiafoe, Tommy Paul, like Jack Sock even, like they all have these weird forehands where it's like really whippy and not classic, which I don't understand. It's like, look at Djokovic, Nadal. Even Nadal doesn't have a whippy forehand. Like he has kind of whip to it, but it's a long through the ball stroke, which is nice. Like
it's not short.
Unorthodox styles, which is like kind of a very American. It's like we're gonna pump them up and get like a massive serve and a massive forehand. It's like Korda has that like European kind of like really well-rounded game. And what did he make the 4th round? Like that's
really,
that's very good That's a very good result for him. And he obviously could have won that match, made the quarterfinal, and played Shapovalov, and then you never know. So that would have been big for him. But yeah, I think he's probably breakout player of the tournament for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And just to correct myself before subscribers completely destroy me, Hurkacz did play the French Open in the first round. He lost in the first round to Van der Zandschulp in 5 sets. He was actually 2 sets to love up. Van der Zandschulp. Sorry.
Wait, so that was Khachanov or Shapovalov?
Hurkacz, sorry. Hurkacz.
Oh yeah.
Hurkacz, yeah. He did play. He was 2 sets to love up. Actually, Hurkacz, which was a nightmare. And then Denis Shapovalov didn't play the French Open. I'm pretty sure he was injured, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I remember him having a little niggle. And Khachanov did play. He actually got to the 3rd round. Right. He lost in the 2nd round to Nishikori.
Right.
So that's not terrible, I guess. Okay. And before, I just wanted to correct myself before, everyone's like, "What are you doing? You don't know what you're talking about." But yeah, shot of the tournament. Do you have one in mind? I've got one in mind, but I'll let you go first.
Shot of the tournament. One. Excuse me. Sneeze. From what I saw, shot of the tournament was Richard Gasquet's backhand. Federer had this he mashed a forehand to Richard Gasquet's backhand that basically landed almost on the line.
Yeah.
Richard just unloaded his one-hander.
Unbelievable backhand.
Flat backhand hit the other line, which was that was insane. That's
yeah.
I think
he lost the game.
Miles an hour, and that's
yeah.
It's so insane to do with a one-hander.
I'm pretty sure that took him to 40-15 or 40 love up. Then he lost. He got broken because Federer broke him. So Federer was apparently after Federer said, "I saw that backhand from Gasquet and I thought, oh, that's a great backhand." He said, "You know what? I should do that more." And then he inspired him. Yeah. And then it inspired him to do it. So Gasquet's probably great. Yeah. But it's funny because I think Gasquet idolizes Federer. A lot of these guys on tour do. But it's interesting because Gasquet is not that much younger than Federer, but he still looks up to him, which is interesting. He's got a terrible record against him, but really good looking backhand though, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Cracking one. Mine was actually the Berrettini tweener versus Djokovic in the final.
Yeah.
Where he lobbed him. I'm pretty sure it might have been an element of luck, and he probably didn't know he didn't know where it was going to go, but it ended up being a very, very good and well-placed tweener that Djokovic eventually could only put into the net. But it was funny because I don't really associate Berrettini with those types of tricks, and also trying with that type of movement as well. He doesn't come across to me as someone, he's a bit top heavy, doesn't come across as someone who's a great mover, but to be fair, he does move pretty well on the grass. So I thought that, and actually it's not a question, but it's funny because obviously, as I said, I watched the Kyrgios Umber match up until I think it was 3-3 in the 5th set. And this is a fail shot of the tournament, which is Kyrgios trying to underarm serve in his first service game, and it going straight into the middle of the net.
Yeah,
and the crowd going, "Oh man!" And I'm just cracking up there whilst watching, thinking, "What is he doing?" And I think he was only 30 love up on his first service game when he did that, and I was like, on his first serve as well. So it was a crack up. But yeah,
classic.
Is there anything you want to touch on before we wrap up, Stephen? Thanks again, though, for being on.
Yeah, of course. No, I think we covered it all. It's it was a good tournament for the young guys, good tournament for Djokovic, and I'm really, really excited for the rest of the season, especially the US Open.
Yeah, agreed. I think obviously bring on the Olympics, but I have a feeling we may have a very depleted field for the Olympics. But the US Open, I think, is going to be definitely, if everyone's fit, which it looks like hopefully they will be, then that's going to be a big time tournament, one of the biggest tournaments we've had in a long time, because the records on the line and just I think the competition that will be on show. And I know you said the same thing, so I'm looking forward to that. The timings won't be kind to me, but they'll be kind to you, I'm sure, or kinder to you.
Be perfect for me.
so I'm sure you'll be happy about that. And I'll be up at 2 a.m. trying to watch it with my glasses on. But thank you very.
Return the favor.
Yeah, exactly. Returning the favor for me. I'm sure. I remember the French Open. You were saying at the time was terrible. So I'm sure Wimbledon wasn't much better.
Yeah.
But thanks very much, Stephen, for being on. I do appreciate it. And guys, if you haven't already, which I'm sure you already have, because I know a lot of you have either come from the slice or have already checked out the channel, please do go over to the Slice Tennis on YouTube and go and subscribe to the channel. There's also a website, I know. So go and check out that and call articles. Stephen's also hiring, so if you're interested in tennis and you do want to get involved with the Slice, then do get into contact with him. And also you can buy bagel mugs, as we said, and hoodies and all sorts. I think he's wearing a Slice hoodie. So Steve, yeah, exactly. I'm not as advanced in my channel progression as Stephen, but I'm sure that's something that I'm aspiring to do, get QualityShot hoodie. I don't know if that'll happen ever, but we'll see. But yeah, thanks very much, mate. I do appreciate it. And yeah, looking forward to rolling on to US Open. I'm sure we can catch up before maybe or after. I look forward to it.
Yeah. Sounds good. Thanks for having me on.
No